What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. We are back here again. We've got Igor Tudor'S first interview as Spurs manager to react to. But first and foremost, Lucas Bergvall injury update. Football Direct, a very reputable source out in Sweden, say that Lucas Bergvall has had his protective boot removed and he will be due back in 6 weeks' time. So that means he's still going to miss, obviously, the Arsenal game, Fulham game, Palace game, Liverpool game and Forest game, and in line to be back for Sunderland away for the April fixtures.
Yeah, and it's pretty much what we heard. We heard he was going to be out for 2 to 3 months, and this is in line with that. Obviously, we are desperate to get him back, aren't we?
Yeah.
Albeit, you could argue, he plays in the one position we do have quite a bit of depth. I do wonder with Tudor, with his wing-back system, obviously Deki is out for the next month or so. We are struggling with numbers in those positions, as Sue's already. Now, if you look back at his Juventus team, he was actually known for playing McKennie at wing-back quite a lot.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So and also they continued with that after he left. So I do wonder if you'll look at some of our midfielders and think one of those is going to be wing back. I know it's not entirely relevant to the Bergvall discussion, but I wonder if when Bergvall comes back, could one of the wing backs go? Can one of the
you would point to Archie Gray, wouldn't you?
Gray, Sarr, I think could be a good. I think Sarr and McKennie kind of profile quite similarly. So I wonder if Sarr could be considered in that position.
So you're saying Bergvall for wing back?
Bergvall, I reckon, would be very good wing backs. He's got a brilliant cross on him. He's
got a good engine as well.
Very good engine. So I wonder if he could be considered in that role. Obviously, we do miss quite a bit with him in terms of just that technical ability. Right now, I think he's like the one where you're looking at in central midfield who can get his foot on the ball, really drive with the ball at the moment. When you're looking at Sarr, Gallagher, Bentancur, Paulinho, Basuma, I don't think any of them have that kind of ability Bergvall has. Although Bergvall might be lacking off the ball a bit in terms of his positioning, I think Bergvall offers something a bit more when it comes to his bravery on the ball. I think Gallagher's very good on the ball, but he's plays it safe, I've noticed, way too much. Bergvall is a bit more adventurous.
The thing is with Gallagher playing it safe, is that down to the manager that we had, or is that down to the player that he is? I think it probably points more in line to what the actual instructions were from the manager. So it's hard to judge players on this season in terms of how brave they are on the ball, because we just had a very risk-averse manager in charge.
Yeah, that's fair. So maybe I'm judging him harshly. I'm just looking at how he's played with the ball. It's a lot of the time been sideways. But I guess that's been all our midfielders.
Literally, there's not one midfielder that played in the central areas that could play the ball forward. And, we did the comparison on a panel show earlier this season about Bentancur. He did a lot of forward passes last season under Ange, and this season he did barely any. So I think under a new manager, under a forward-thinking manager, we might look at these midfielders in a bit of a different light.
I also think the new formation will probably suit him, because I think in the formation we were playing before under Frank, obviously he didn't trust him in the double pivot and kind of shoehorned him into the number 10 position.
Yeah.
Once we played the 3-4-2-1, he only played one game in it, didn't he? And that was Dortmund. And he did play in the double pivot before getting injured. I wonder if, let's say, Bergvall had been fit over the last few weeks, would he have shoehorned him into that front three, or would he have played him and continued to play him in that double pivot? But I think Tudor will play him in that double pivot. I don't think he's going to take one of Xavi, Moani, Tell or Solanke out those positions. So I think he's definitely going to play him there. And I think that position will suit him, because he's going to have protection, but he's also going to have a bit of license to be a bit box-to-box. And I think that suits Bergvall.
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, I'm very excited to get him back. Not long now. I mean, it's not that many games he's missing compared to the amount of time. I mean, 6 weeks. And
Champions League as well, whoever we
plays. He'll
miss
two Champions League games. And if we get through, it'll be very much a welcome addition in terms of the next round after that. But
so you're saying it's 6 weeks, but in essence it's 2 months, because the 11th of April is when he's going to be back.
Yeah, because we don't have a game in between then. From the 22nd of March to the 11th of April, there's no game. So
what, 3 weeks?
Apparently so. That's what because I'm guessing there's an FA Cup weekend in there. There's an international break as well.
Might be a Champions League game maybe after the Forest game, maybe.
Yeah, there very well could be. But I know there's an international break in there, and probably an FA Cup game as well. So, yeah, there's not that much football. We've got a lot of games. We've got 4 games in May scheduled. We've got 3 games in April scheduled and 4 games in March. So, like, the kind of heavy fixture list is kind of come and gone, which is probably good for the strain on the squad.
It's what happens when you've got 12 games left of the season. I guess the games are running out.
Yeah, and you're out of the domestic cups.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess, yeah, good news on Bergvall that we got an end in sight.
And he'll need it if he wants to make that World Cup squad, have a good end to the season.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the report a couple of days ago on Mohamed Kudus, but it looks like he's gone to Amsterdam to get further kind of a look at his injury. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Rehabilitation, I don't know.
It's nothing new, isn't it, with our medical staff? Romero, Richarlison have all looked externally for support for their injuries. I'm guessing Kudus is doing the same. No one trusts our medical staff. So
it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's like, how many players are going to go and seek external advice when you've got literally the best facilities that anyone has to offer inside the building? It's just like the people manning it can't do their job.
Yeah, 100%. To be fair, I don't know how abnormal it is, even at other clubs, for players to do that. But it seems to be a theme at our club, that's for sure.
Yeah, anyway. So, yeah, there you have it. Bergvall, 6 weeks. Kudus, still haven't really heard anything about him.
And it's mad when you think about injury crisis. Like, as much as we're hoping we're going to get players back, we have 12 injuries. 6 of them are pretty much out for most of the season, aren't they? So, and it's mad. I was looking at the injury list of the clubs, other clubs in the Premier League. Obviously, we have 12. The nearest one to us is 6. And that's the number of long-term injuries we have, let alone short-term. So the number of long-term injuries is the same amount as the total amount in other clubs.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is crazy. And also, it's worth noting, I think we have spoken about it as well, but Potter, who's obviously the Swedish manager, was speaking about Isak and Kulusevski, and he said he's speaking to both of them at the moment, and both of them obviously very positive about their injury situation, and he was hopeful that he could have both of them in the squad for March. Could you imagine? Well, maybe Deki will play again this season.
Hopefully. Look, I think, again, with this injury, it's kind of an unknown, isn't it? We've been talking about it this whole season. I think Deki was hoping he'll be back in October, and then November, and then December, and now he's hoping March. I think it just kind of
surely
see how
now,
you feel.
like he's been out for so long. Surely now they know kind of how long he's actually going to be out for.
I don't think they do, because it's all about how his knee reacts when he comes back on the pitch, and clearly every time he's come back he's still feeling the pain, he gets swollen, and it's not kind of reacting how they would hope. So it might happen. I'm not saying it definitely won't. I'm just saying there's no guarantees at this point when he's going to be back, because clearly whatever they've done hasn't worked completely how they expected. And I think, when did we hear Frank say we're going to hear more in a month? Wasn't that like 2 months ago? I can't remember what it was.
That was the latest update that we got from him about a month ago or a few weeks ago.
He said he was having a meeting.
Yeah, that wasn't too long ago when he said that.
Yeah, so let's hope. They said we should know more in a month's time.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't, because he said he was having a meeting and he didn't know when he was going to be back. And I think before that he said he's going to be on the grass hopefully in a month's time. I think that was, it must have been about a month ago. I think when it comes to Deki, you can't expect anything at this point.
The thing, I agree, you can't really expect anything, but it does sound a bit more hopeful when you got Graham Potter saying, well, maybe he can be in the squad in March.
As I say, I think Potter said before, hopefully December, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think he said that. Hopefully Maddison, though. I think he might be back in the squad by March time.
Yeah, maybe.
I would say.
These days, again, like, it's another injury where you need to be really careful with it. Look at Dragusin, he came back and he was fully fit for ages, and we just eased him in. So I think with Maddison, from now to the end of the season, I think maybe the last couple of game weeks of the season, you might see him come off the bench in line for him to make a push and a big start for pre-season. But I don't expect him to start any games this season.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the squad come March, April time.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you have it. That is the injury news going in to the game week against Arsenal this weekend. It is North London Derby week, people, with a new manager bounce. We all saw how they suffered the new manager bounce last time against Manchester United. Well, can Spurs do the same?
We're hoping it's a bounce. It's definitely a new manager. That's definitely for sure.
Yeah.
Whether it's a bounce, I guess we'll see on Sunday.
Yeah, we will see on Sunday. But Igor Tudor has done his first interview as Spurs manager. So it's only 5 minutes long, so not too much to get your teeth bitten into. But let's go through it and let's pick out the bones.
Let's see what he's got to say for himself. First words as manager.
Big challenge for me, big honor to be here. I'm very.
First of all, he looks like a guy you don't want to fuck with. 100% in the way he walked in like that. So confident, 100%.
It looks like he's a man that demands authority, doesn't he?
Someone said on Twitter, I heard, I think we've got a manager who looks like he can beat the shit out of any other manager in the Premier League. But anyway, let's go on to what he's saying.
Happy, and in the same way, I don't think too much about myself because I'm focused on work to do. So
can I just make a quick assessment? He says, I'm very happy, and that's his face. He doesn't look to like.
Some people just don't like to give away their emotions.
The body language is saying something very different to what his words are saying. But
in the same way, I don't think too much about myself because I'm focused on work to do. So wherever you go, it's always about your relation with the players, with the team, with the town. There are a lot of similarity, even if this is like an NBA of the European football. This is the best of the best, so it's a privilege to be here. First priority is to give everything the team needs in these moments. The team need, I believe, first of all, to get some confidence, to get some courage, but also in the same way the concrete things in the pitch. Of course, I'm coming here knowing that situation is not easy. There's no time to find excuses. What I said from the first day here, each of us, each of players need to give something more, something extra, because the position of the club in this moment is not that anybody can accept. Every fans of Tottenham cannot accept the situation. We are aware of that, but it's not enough to just be aware of that. I like to be positive. I like to.
So that's first of all, just quickly on that. I like that I like the juxtaposition of like what he's saying here compared to like what Frank has been saying over the last few weeks. Oh, there's improvements. Oh, we've been playing great. Look at the last 5 performances. There's been improvements there. The last 10 performances, there's like been consistent performances. I like that he's just laying it out there. This is an acceptable position. We're aware of it. It's not just good enough to be aware of it. Like, he knows why he's been brought in, essentially. But I appreciate he's not coming in kind of saying. He's kind of just saying it how it is.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's easy for him to say that because he's new in the camp, and Thomas Frank's there trying to like fight for his job in every press conference, and he needs to kind of put out that kind of, all right, we're improving, don't worry guys, stick by me, you know what I mean? That's what Frank's thing was.
Yeah, I know, but it just felt like we were being gaslit for the for the last few months. Like he was kind of, no, we've never had 2 bad performances in a row.
Yeah.
We've look at these last 10 performances. There's been good stuff we can take away from all of them, and all this kind of stuff, although we're losing every game. So I think it's important for him to acknowledge that straight out of the bat. This situation is unacceptable for a team like Tottenham. And like whereas you got Frank saying, remember we finished 17th last season, implying anything above that is an improvement, even though we don't expect to be in the situation where we are now. Whereas he's come in with this message. I appreciate that.
But I think like there's no other message that he could have come in with. Let's be real. He's been brought in to save the club from relegation.
True.
That's what he's been brought in to do. So what else can he say apart from, I'm here to give confidence, to give a bit of freedom. And I like that, because he needs to give the confidence to the players, and that's the main thing that we need right now. Because if these players have confidence, we know that we can beat anyone on our day.
Also, his deep voice
compared
to like Frank's like squeaky voice. I think it just commands respect. Anyway,
I like that deep voice.
It's not enough to just be aware of that. I like to be positive. I like to play offensive football. Of course, that's my first goal I have, that I like to score the goal. But in the same way, for sure, need to give organization in defense. Okay, give the clear structure of the what you want to play. The situation is not easy because, as you know better than me, we have a lot of injury players. So we need first to find the best system that suit for the players that are available in this moment. So very particular.
How many managers How many managers are going to come in here that say they like playing attacking football, that are going to play attacking football? Mourinho said it, Frank said it, now Tudor's saying it. None of, I mean, I don't know about Tudor, but the other two just didn't.
Yeah, they've all said it. Frank, Mourinho, Conte, they all said they'd love to come in, play beautiful, aggressive, positive attacking football, and they never really showed that on the pitch. The only one who said he was going to do it and did it was Ange, but in recent times that is. But I'm pretty sure even Nuno, we were saying, oh, look at his time at Valencia, he played attacking football there, and it never quite happened. But I think it gives an indication of how he wants to play. When he said he has to always caveat what he's saying of, I want to play attacking football, but I also want structured defence and a defence that what did he say? He wanted a well-organised defence. So that kind of the fact that he's caveating it implies that he is maybe a bit more, can be a bit more conservative at times. I think that he's going to say that.
That's similar to what Frank was saying. He wants to play aggressive, attacking. He didn't even. You know what really got me with Frank's press conferences? He doesn't understand the term front-footed. He always says he didn't understand the term free-flowing. He always said free-floating.
Yeah, I know.
That always got me, man. Like, it's free-flowing football, not free-floating. He doesn't even know the word. Don't mind trying to implement it. But he always spoke about attacking football, but then the players and
clean sheet mentality.
That's the thing, clean sheet mentality. It's like there's no clean sheet mentality if you want to play really attacking football.
Well, yeah. I mean, in theory, hopefully, like what we did, for example, on the pitch, you're so attacking that you kind of suffocate the opposition, and that leads to so little attacks you can keep a clean sheet. That's what you want. But I don't mind, obviously, having a mentality of you want to keep a clean sheet, but not at the expense of how you want to attack. And that was the issue under Frank. It seemed as though that was at the forefront because we were so poor defensively over the last couple of years. There was a bit of an overcorrection from Frank, thinking, okay, we have to make sure we get this defence right. It's like he spent the whole season just working on the defence, and the players got tired of it, the fans got tired of it, and once the results and the defence started to fall apart, he had nothing on the pitch. He had absolutely nothing. I guess at the beginning of the season, you could argue, and the fair argument, the defence was more functional, wasn't it? We were keeping some regular clean sheets at times, although the attacking on the ball possession was awful. I would argue, if you're so focused on it and you don't focus on how you are on the ball, you're going to put yourself under more and more pressure, which is going to put more pressure on your defence, which is going to lead to more goals being leaked eventually. And that's kind of what happened down the line. But hopefully, I think Tudor, or Tudor, I don't know how you exactly pronounce it, hopefully his way of playing will just have more balance on the pitch. I don't expect us to be gung-ho or anything, but I think he's going to give a bit more kind of an attacking plan in possession, how we're going to attack teams, how we're going to kind of hurt them, get in behind them. But also, I still think he's going to have this mentality of once we're giving up possession, we are going to be a bit more robust and structurally aggressive, but with a higher line as well.
I do believe that, but I think the game model will be based on transitional moments under Tudor. I think it will be about winning the ball high up the pitch for the turnovers and being able to hit them really well in the transition.
I think the key thing is under Frank we were very, very passive. We were a very passive team. We were always reactive to the opposition. We were never proactive, even when defending or attacking. Always very, very passive. Whereas I think under Igor, we're going to be a lot more proactive. That's what I'm hoping for.
The thing is, that's true under Frank, but the times that we weren't kind of like that and very reactive, and the times that we chased the opponent and pressed the opponent, that's the times that we look good. So I don't understand why we didn't see that more.
I mean, if you look back on especially the first couple of games, like especially City away, we were not very passive in that game. We were really going after them at times, especially we picked our moments, but we were going after them. That just seemed to completely seep out of our game. And whether that's a buy-in from the players or not, sure.
I think it is, because it kind of vanished out our game. We saw it in sporadic moments after that. But he always spoke about being aggressive, winning your duels, all these kind of things that just never got consistently implemented into the team. And I don't think for one second he wasn't trying to drill that into the team, but I think the players just lost focus on what he was saying.
Yeah, I think mainly it's due to if you're not going to have a plan in possession of how to win games rather than just because what he's implementing is like, these are fundamental things, right, which every team needs, right? And obviously you want to be the best in the league at those things. And if you are, that's like half the battle. But when you're a team like Tottenham, it's not enough just to do that. I kind of like at Brentford, winning those duels and stuff, that's like enough to keep you in the league. So that's like very important, and it is important for us as well. But that's not enough, like for us.
But we weren't even doing that though. That's
no, I agree, but I think that falls apart because we don't have anything beyond that. So what's the point of trying so hard? I mean, not what's the point, but you're doing all this effort, you're trying really hard to win your duels, but that's kind of the only plan. What's the plan when we actually have the ball, when we're dominating, when we need to break a team down, when we're being asked the questions? It's like they had nothing to believe in beyond that. So that wasn't enough to sustain those margins that you need to keep winning kind of throughout the season, because there was nothing beyond that to keep this team believing in this way of playing. Whereas at Brentford, just winning that battle was kind of enough to sustain their belief, because their belief is we should be mid-table or whatever, battling or staying up. And those things are enough to keep you up, right? But by itself, a lot of the time, if you're just winning those battles, that's kind of just enough to keep you where Brentford are. So that will keep them believing that through that way of playing. But for Tottenham, that ain't enough. So players are going to give up and lose interest, because what is the point of winning all these duels if there's no plan beyond that?
Yeah, and also we got to say is in Brentford, particularly in Frank's last season at Brentford, he probably had better players suited to those transitional moments in games and been able to be killers in the other end of the box. You had, Johan Wissa scoring over 20 goals. You had Mbeumo scoring over 20 goals in the season. Like, both those players would have got significant minutes, and Mbeumo would have been a star in the team. So, and Sade, obviously, he got 10 to 15 goals last season as well. So those players were like perfect for winning the ball high up the pitch. He had players that were perfect in kind of winning those duels. And he had better quality players in the forward line.
Yeah, he did. All right, let's keep going.
Moment, maybe this can sound strange, but I believe that the things that we need to be focused is the training. So the training from today, that's the key, because I always like to say that the Sunday and the game is a consequence of the training. So that need to be focused. The coach need to show the path, where is the way we want to go, how we want to go, and the players need to accept this. And together, we in this way preparing during the week is the best thing for the Sunday. Yeah, I know some players. I also been coaching Dejan and Rodrigo. Unfortunately, they are not now available to play immediately, but they are here in the dressing room for sure. But I find all players very available to react, let's say like this. I believe in his style. The style is more important than the system, of course. As I said, very particular moment. So every club has his particularity, can I say this word? Yeah, that is first as a culture of that club, which kind of football they like. So it's always important to think about that. But
it's interesting that he doesn't mention Moani when he was talking about the players that he knows and has coached before. Obviously, he mentions Bentancur and Kulusevski from the time he had at Juventus with them in the earlier days.
He was an assistant, yeah.
But the actual one he actually managed was Randall, and he didn't mention him.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder why that is a bit peculiar, especially because a lot of people said Moani did really well under him. Not sure. But he says, one quote, he says, style is much more important than system. And I think that's very important when it comes to us as a football club.
Because Frank was the opposite.
Yeah, literally. It seemed as though that way anyway. Whatever system we played, the style was the same, wasn't it? Very reactive, very passive. Although there were some games maybe in the Champions League who were a bit more proactive, it seems, against like Dortmund and Frankfurt in that system. But I think under Igor, that's the thing he needs to bring. He needs to bring a team that is looking at the opposition, going after the opposition, rather than just always waiting for them and always dropping back and being proactive. And I think that is very, very important. He says that the style is much more important. He's talking about what the club want to see, the culture of the club, and all this kind of stuff. So I really hope he takes all of that on board. But obviously, I also feel like managers obviously always say this when they first take over, then they always revert to what they know and what works for them, because that's what got them in that situation. So as much as I do think a lot of managers come with the best intentions, when it comes to what they need to do for them to get results, they revert back to what they've done in their career. I feel that always happens.
The reality is, I don't think at this stage any of this matters, to be honest. I don't think style matters. I don't think system matters. I don't think any of this matters. All he needs to do is win some football matches. You know, no matter how he wins them, just win them.
Yeah, and I completely agree. As much as the main reason or big reason of why Frank didn't work was, you know, the dire football and stuff like that. I think what's really cost him, obviously, is we're hurtling towards his relegation battle. We can't afford to go down.
I think that's the main thing.
And he's lost the buy-in from the players. So it doesn't matter what kind of football Tudor plays at this moment. I think everyone just wants results and wants points on the board.
Look, I know it's old cliche, you know, results given business and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, you win, you kind of keep your job or you lose your job by the results. You live and die by the results in this industry. And no matter what style of football, like if we were playing Frank's football, this terrible aesthetically looking football, and we're getting results consistently, we were battling for Champions League, you know, there's going to be people that don't care about it. You know, I probably wouldn't have cared. I would have said, you know, this guy's doing a decent job. Look at the results he's getting. You might have been like, you know, he's getting the results, fair play, but I just can't watch his football anymore. You know what I mean? So everyone has their different opinion, but at the end of the day, if you're playing well, if you're playing shit, if you're not getting the results, that's all that's going to matter is the results.
I agree, but I would also kind of argue the reason, a part of the reason he wasn't getting the results is because the players didn't buy into this.
Yeah,
way
yeah,
he was
100%.
Gonna play, and so
that's
that
fair.
feeds into each other.
Yeah.
But I think Igor's the kind of guy, it seems like much more of a motivator. He's not going to take any shit. This guy looks like he commands kind of respect. He's got a long career of playing at the top level as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the players react to him. But also I feel like the players must understand the situation we're in. And as much as, you know, they didn't buy into Frank, I'm sure they want to turn this situation around. I don't think they want to just not play for any manager. I think they're wanting to find something to believe in or a man to believe in. I think they'll buy into him.
Surely no player wants on their CV they were part of the Tottenham team that got relegated.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's crazy.
As much as I know there are some fans who've called in saying these players don't care if we go down, they'll get a move and all this kind of stuff. They don't. I don't think they want this on their CV for sure. They don't want a relegation, and it won't help them. It won't help anything, in my opinion. I don't think it's a good situation for anyone.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going.
The same way, not forget who I am, what I want the team achieve, but thinking this player can do this. So I need to be with my staff very intelligent to find the best possible way to get out very short time.
He says, actually, as well, we didn't talk about it, he says we need to find the best system for the players available. Now, we know he's used to playing a 3-4-2-1. Is that the best system for the players available? You can maybe argue not.
I think he's going to go for 3-5-2 to start off with.
3-5-2.
Yeah, I think he's going to go for Dom Moani up top, Javi in the 10, and maybe Sarr and Gallagher or a Palhinha in there.
Yeah, I think with the players available, you have to say where the depth is in midfield. So you kind of need to try and get as many midfielders in that team as you can, because that's where we have the players available. So playing a system like three in the middle, probably you would say, could work. But in terms of if you're going to play Xavi in a midfield 3 or in a 3-4-3, you're still only going to play 2 centre mids, aren't you? Like 2 number 8s.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really make too much difference unless he plays one of the midfielders at wing back, and I reckon he's going to look at that. But I wonder if he looks at the current situation with the no fit centre backs, only Dragusin and Van de Ven, and does he think, actually, I'm going to go with a back 4?
I don't think so.
Or does he go back 3?
I don't think so, because you got Dragusin and Van de Ven, you got Palhinha, who stepped in and been very good there this season, which you will know. So yeah, I do think he's going to go with the 3 at the back.
But also, you kind of got 2 problems. First, we got no fit centre backs, and as well, you don't really have fit natural wing backs, depending on how fit Porro is. We don't really have 2. Like Udogie's injured, Sousa's not really. I don't know how good he is. So we don't really have two natural wing backs either.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, the prognosis from Porro is that they're earmarking the North London derby return. So if he's back for the Arsenal game, then we do have two wing backs.
I also don't know if Spence at wing back on the left is a great situation, to be honest. But also, if Porro's, I'll be worried about putting him in for the North London derby. If obviously we want him to be fit for it, and he might be available. But is it another situation like we just had with Spence, like being rushed back, and he wasn't fully on it? But we don't know. Obviously, we'll have to make that judgment.
Depends when he actually comes back to training. That's when it comes, because it was a hamstring injury, wasn't it? So if you rush him back, then it's very much at risk of doing it again.
Yeah, there's little clips, but I didn't see him there. But obviously, we'll have to wait to see training when he comes out. But yeah, my point being, you kind of have a double whammy in that system when it comes to no fit centre backs, and also you've got problems with wing back as well. So, is it the best system for what we've got available? I think there are definitely cases to say no, but could he also make it? Could he make it work? He probably could if he kind of shoehorns a midfielder out wide. If he gets Paulinho at centre back, he could make it work. But I definitely think there's a conversation to be had right now for the Arsenal game in terms of what's available. Is 3-4-2-1 the best formation for it? I don't know. But if that's what he knows, maybe that's the best way to go anyway.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be a 3-5-2. I genuinely believe that. And I think he's going to want to put Moani in, and Solanke, his form you can't really ignore right now. And two guys that, he likes to press high from the front. And Moani and Dom Solanke can definitely bring you that as well.
Let's keep going.
It was good first session. We start to know each other. It was 1 hour because we had 5 days free, so first training is not too much, and from tomorrow we start to work serious.
Big week ahead.
Big week, yes, big week, important games, important game. We know everybody. This derby is a fantastic game to play. We want to play this game in a way that our fans will like. So going and give everything what we have in right way, brave, but in the same way intelligent and smart, to achieve what we want, and that's the victory. I believe that in the football, 2026 is changed a lot. It's changing year by year, so more physical players. Let's say it's crucial. If you can run 115 kilometers as a team, is better than 105. That means that you had one player extra. So there is nothing strange to choose that direction. Of course, it's always about motivated player that understand this thing about running, about physical aspect of the football, which is sometimes not easy. But that without quality is you cannot do nothing. So technical skills, intelligent to see, to recognize the situation in speech is always above everything. So you need to find a mix about both things. And about winning or drawing, that's the truth. I never saw the coach who said that he can play for draw. It's not possible. So offensive football, yes, but smart. Okay, so that's the key.
Play the North London derby, how the fans want to see it. So basically, just kick a few gooners, and then it'll be all right. But you know what?
Brave, he said we need to be brave, smart, attacking football, but smart.
Yeah, the biggest thing I take away from it, and I thank him for it, is that didn't bloody promise us any losses. Didn't say, there's one thing I can promise you, we will lose football matches.
Can absolutely guarantee, without a shadow of a doubt, that we will lose. So no opening gambits like that. I guess we have to wait to see his press conference. But I like the way he was talking about we have to be brave, we have to play attacking football, we want to play the game in a way the fans like. Obviously, the last time we played the North London derby, it was the opposite of that, wasn't it? There was probably the most cowardly performance in North London derby I've ever seen at the Emirates earlier in the season.
Sammy, move us back over.
So I think that's obviously crucial, that we are brave and we do look to win the game on Sunday. As much as we'll all take a draw right now, I think he needs to kind of lay down a marker for what his tenure is going to be like on Sunday. Playing top of the league at home in our stadium, we need to give him a game. We need to show that we have possibilities to win this game, not just try and eke out a 0-0. As much as I would take a 0-0 right now, That's not the intent we need to show in that opening game. We need to instill belief, and the best way to instill belief is really give Arsenal a game, whether we win or not.
Yeah, we need to be so over aggressive in this game. Not over aggressive that we get sending off, but we need to show them that they're in a game, and we just didn't do that earlier on in the season. We made it way too easy for them, way too passive. We need to not give them any time on the ball. And we've seen Arsenal, when they're playing against a team that's compact defensively, they really struggle to break them down. So that's the aspect that we need to show. Jorgensen's still here, so he can work on the set pieces, which could be massive for us defending and offensively. Look, with the way Arsenal are playing, I don't think it's a given that they do win this game. I really don't. So we need to be on our game. If we play like we did at the Emirates, then for sure we'll lose, no matter how Arsenal play. But there's an opportunity for us this weekend. There really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's decent first interview. I think he's saying the right things. I do think it's interesting. He's talking every time he says he wants to play attacking football, he does always kind of caveat it. We want to play attacking but smart. We want to be a front-footed team but organised defence. So I think that probably goes to show a bit of his mentality, like he doesn't want to go overboard with how attacking he is, which is maybe why there is a bit of a...
which is right.
No, I understand that, but I wonder why. That's probably why you hear contrasting opinions about him, because that's probably, at some points he is that one way, and some points he's another way, depending on the game set. I understand you want a balance, but one point is if this was like, let's say, Pep Guardiola making his first interview, I don't think he would caveat his way of football saying, "I want to play lovely, free-flowing football, but I also want to free-floating, but it all has to be on balance with an organised defence." I think the message would be, we're going to dominate and we're going to pin the opposition back, and they're not going to be able to get near us. That's like the message he would put. So I don't think that's kind of what Tudor wants to do. He kind of understands maybe the situation, and the football he likes to play is, we're going to try and attack, and we're going to be brave, and we're going to be smart, but we're not going to go crazy overcommitting. If we are, backs against the wall, we're going to have to, be organised, and that's kind of the message.
Yeah, but this is an interim role. He's not come in here to implement a style of play and to progress us over a few years. He's literally here for 5 months until June. He's come in to win a few results, no matter how they come. So I think we will see attacking football at times. We'll see defensive football at times. I think we'll see a mixture of both, as he sees fit, of the opposition that we're playing and the players that we have available to us as well, because that's a big thing with the injuries that we have. So, yeah, I don't think there's too much to read into it in terms of the style of play that we're going to play, but he just needs to get results. That's the main thing. And someone's saying in the comments that Porro and Richie have both fully trained yesterday and today. So I'm not sure how true that is. Haven't seen that. But if it is, it's big.
Yesterday and today. That is true. That is very big, because we just need all the numbers we can get. And I think the most important thing is we need to just come flying out the traps in the first half.
That's 100%.
The first halves have just been so bad, and it just sets the tone for the whole game.
The thing is, right, we have come flying out the traps in first halves, but we can only sustain it for like 5 minutes, and then the kind of game reverts back to type, and then we're kind of on the back foot for the next 40 minutes. We need to sustain it over longer than a 5-minute period.
Yeah, exactly. So we need to set the tone early on, put a few early challenges in, and we also need Tudor to take no shit from Arteta and square up to him when he's overstepping the mark.
Exactly.
And if Arteta's going to get outside of his technical area, then Tudor's going to get on the pitch. And if Arteta matches him, then Tudor has to get even further. Tudor has to win that battle on the touchline of who's more insufferable.
I think he will. I think he will. Let's hope so. But look, good first interview. Actually believed what he was saying. I think he speaks well. Good English as well for a Croat and guy that spent a lot of time in Italy. So, yeah, it's left me feeling a bit more positive.
Yeah, entering the body language of him, I feel like Frank, when he first come into the job, he's like, obviously he's a very positive guy, and you know, he's sitting down and he's thinking everything's going to be positive. He's always like trying to kind of instill a positive mentality, but sometimes that's just not enough. And I feel like Tudor, you can see with his body language, he's calm, he's confident, he understands this is an absolute mess and we're in the shit, but he kind of gives this like confident, quiet demeanor, but there's like an underlying of, this isn't a guy you want to let down or double cross kind of vibe. Whereas Frank, he doesn't give off that kind of authority vibe. I feel like Tudor does. So let's see how that plays out with the players.
Essentially, what you're saying is he doesn't come across as a PE teacher. That's pretty much what you're saying, because those are the vibes I got with Thomas Frank, especially in some of his press conferences, and also seeing him on the clips of him on the training ground as well. So, yeah, look, I'm positive about Tudor going in to the final couple of months of the season, and yeah, I think he's going to keep us up.
As I've said, the only worry, and it plays into my worry as well when he talks about near the end there about the physical output modern football requires, and 115 kilometres running is better than 105 and stuff like that. The only problem I have with that, I think it's all true, but the problem is we're currently in the absolute shit with injuries, pushing these players even more than right now than they have been pushed. Is that going to cause more injuries with the players that we currently have? And what's that going to look like in a few weeks' time if the injuries are continuing to pile on? If you continue to push them now, obviously they're smarter than me, they're more experienced with management, so I'm hoping they do everything within reason on the pitch with these players in terms of how much they can get out of them. But obviously with a new manager, you're going to try and get more out of them than the previous manager did. So you're going to get them trying harder and running more.
The thing is,
and I'm worried about that situation. And it's not even his fault, it's just the situation.
The thing is, I don't think it's as simple as that. Is that, oh, you ask the players to run more, they're more likely to get injured. Obviously, on the bare face of it, that's probably true. But the reality is with, let's say, Ange, he never brought in kind of specialist physical people and coaching physios that know how he plays his football and knows how to condition them in the right way. Frank obviously did, and what happened with the injuries. It's hard to put your finger on why, but Igor Tudor has brought in kind of a few people with him and physio people with him as well, medical people with him as well. So hopefully they'll know very much in tune of how Igor likes to play, how aggressive he wants to play, and can condition them in the right way.
Yeah, hopefully that's true. I'm just saying it's a worry of mine and it's a concern of mine. And that's the biggest thing, that if we are going to go down, that might be the thing that costs us, is if we can't get ahead of these injury situations.
It's positive if Porro and Richie are back, that's 2 back. That's vitally needed. So that takes us from 12 to 14, which covers up some of the bench at least. And we just got to hope we don't get any more injuries and we can recover a few more. So after Richie and Porro, who will be the next back? Will it be Bergvall and Kudus?
Bergvall, Kudus by the end of April, by beginning of April.
Is there no one before then?
Bentancur was also, I think, April. Deki and Madison, you just don't really know.
Yeah.
Danso, I don't think so, albeit we haven't really heard a time frame with him, but given the injury, you would think it's going to be long term. Who else is there?
Do you think under Tudor we carry on with the long balls, long throw-ins?
If Danso's not on the pitch, probably not. I think we just start playing quickly.
Yeah.
To be honest.
All right, well, let us know your thoughts on that first interview from Igor Tudor. It filled me with a bit of positivity and confidence, which is desperately needed in this fan base right now. I think it's not so much what he said, just his calming voice, I think, just puts everyone a bit more at ease. So, looks like the real deal. If he is the real deal, I think it remains to be seen, and we'll see on the football pitch in the coming weeks. And the first test is the hardest one that he's going to have against Arsenal in the North London derby. So big week ahead of preparation and battle this weekend. So let us know your thoughts in the comment section. I think there was a super chat here somewhere. Yeah, Conan Takai says, no hair and no gum. Get in. Is he talking about me? Is he talking about Tudor?
He's talking about Frank.
No, Frank had hair.
Yeah, sorry, he's comparing Tudor to Frank. Yeah. Come on. No hair and no gum.
Yeah. Next up, we are going to be looking at the 5 players who we think are going to be the biggest winners under Igor Tudor from now until the end of the season. And I think it's no secret it's a pretty obvious one who we're going to go for the first one, and that is Randall Kolo Muani. It kind of was interesting that he didn't mention him in the interview when he did mention Deki and Bentancur, so I'm not too sure what to read into it. But what we do know is that Randall was a key part of his Juventus team last season and kind of flourished under him at the back end of last season. So I think he's someone that can definitely raise his game from what we've seen so far from Randall. Because in the Premier League, Randall's been awful. Let's be honest.
Yeah, been terrible.
He really has. So even if he just gets one goal in the Premier League, that's more than what we've seen from him.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he went to Juve, and I've heard a lot of Juve fans now speak about how good he was, especially in the run-in last season. He did set the world alight when he first came, but actually Igor wasn't the manager then. But obviously once Igor took over...
Didn't he get off to quite a good start? Because he scored those 2 goals in his debut,
That's what I'm saying, but Igor was the manager then.
Right.
Because I think, was still Motta in that point. But he then went off the boil a bit. Igor takes over. He did have a bit of a second wind in the latter part of the season, and also a fairly decent Club World Cup as well. So he's one that Igor does know well. He knows how to get the best out of him. He was a striker at Juve. He worked very, very hard. He was very good with his pressing. And maybe he'll just change his body language under a manager who knows, who trusts him, who can maybe give him that little bit of confidence. He seems a guy who looks disinterested, doesn't seem like he wants to be at Tottenham. But maybe now the new manager comes in, and manager he knows, he trusts, and knows how to get the best out of him. I think that hopefully will give him the shot in the arm he needs. Now the question is what we do with him in terms of how we play with him, because he's played up front a lot in a 3-4-2-1 under Tudor last season. Obviously Solanke's got that role now. Does he go to a 3-5-2 with both of them up front? Does he change Muani's position to a bit more of a number 10? And that's going to be interesting. Tudor's going to have to work out. Or is Solanke going to be dropped and Muani just go up front? I mean, I think that would be unlikely, but he's just got to do what he thinks is best for the team. So it's going to be very interesting how he plays it.
Yeah, in my opinion, we're going to start off in a 3-5-2 with them two up top, Muani and Solanke. But I wouldn't be surprised if we do see that 3-4-3 with a Javi and a Muani behind Dominic Solanke, and I think that can work well as well. So yeah, Muani, first winner under Igor Tudor. Next up,
let's go Pedro.
Next up, we're going to look at Pedro Porro, who is going to be the second winner under Igor Tudor. We know that he usually plays with that wing-back system. It's a system that Pedro Porro very much knows for his time at Sporting Lisbon, and that's what got us in to pay for him all that money, 45 million. And that's where he kind of made his name in the professional game, playing in a wing-back system. And with his ability on the ball to get crosses in the box, cover ground on the wide areas, I think Pedro Porro can thrive in this system.
Yeah, that's where we signed him from Sporting, as you say. He made his name there. There's always been a bit of a question mark about Porro. Is he a wing-back? Is he a full-back? When he first came under Conte, he did struggle initially until I felt like come the end of the season he was getting a bit more used to it, that wing-back system, and started to play well. Then we obviously...
The thing is, I don't think it was the system that he was struggling with. I think it was the intensity of the league that he was struggling with.
Yeah, definitely early on. His debut against Leicester was one of the worst debuts I think I've ever seen. And then at that point you're thinking, what the hell have we signed? Obviously, I do think he's gotten used to the league by now. This season definitely hasn't been his best season. I think last season and the season before he was much better, to be honest.
And also back then under Conte, even in the early days, he still showed really good attacking output.
Yeah, he was just awful. Going back, he was getting beaten all the time. Now going back to a back three, there's definitely an argument that will help him at the moment, because he seems to be very isolated at the moment when he's up against one-on-one with his winger. If he's got that wing back, he's got that license to go forward a bit more, and he's got the cover behind him, whether it be a midfielder or third centre back as well, and he's got that support. Now I do think that will help him, and I think that'll give him that bit more freedom to get to be in the positions that we know he likes to be in, which is in that final third. And maybe we'll see him scoring some more goals. Maybe we'll see him getting more assists than he was. I feel like this season he's been constrained to that right half space, which he is good in, but I feel like him even further forward, you might see more of him. Now the problem with that is does he have the physical dominance to dominate a whole right flank like some of the other that sometimes you need to do as a wing back, because you might not get because you're kind of the extra man out wide as a wing back. You kind of have to kind of dominate the whole flank in a sense. Otherwise, you're going to need the help from either the right winger or a centre mid or a right centre back. But if they're all gone and busy with their jobs, you might be kind of tasked with managing two players sometimes on that side, so it can have the opposite effect. But I do think if we manage it correctly and given the correct support, I think it could thrive.
Yeah, I think so. I think, look, like I said, I think we've seen him do that. But the only issue is that when he was doing it at Lisbon, they obviously had like over 60% of the possession. They were penning teams back, and he was essentially like a right winger more than like a right wing back. At Spurs, it's going to be different. You know, teams are going to attack us as well. He's going to need to be at his defensive best to thrive. So I think he can do it, and I think his defensive game has got better as his time was wore on at Spurs. I'm just not... Yeah, I do think it's going to take for probably players to help him out in terms of getting up and down the pitch. And I don't see why not. You know, you can get the midfielders coming to help. You can get the right winger or the right side number 10 coming to help. And most importantly, the right centre-back as well.
Right, next up, we're going to look at Conor Gallagher in the middle. Obviously, this new the formation, I do think, is going to help Conor. I don't think we've seen him playing a back three for us, because every time we've done it is mostly in the Champions League under Frank, isn't it? So I don't know if maybe he did once or twice.
Well, he did the first half against City, didn't he?
First half, and wasn't great in that one. But I do think this formation will suit a player like Conor Gallagher, who gets to use his physical kind of strengths in the way that, similar under Conte, the way Højbjerg and Bentancur were very physically able to get up and down the pitch and stretch the opposition. I think Conor Gallagher will be very suited to that. I also have been looking at some of his Juventus play, and one of the key aspects to the midfielders, the centre mids, they had like Locatelli, who was like sitting, but the other midfielders like Keepmar Thuram and Koopmeiners were definitely given license to get into the box and run beyond the ball, which I don't think we've seen a lot of this season from our centre mids. I feel like the double pivots have been very disciplined and strictly in their position, haven't run too much beyond the ball. And I think we're going to see a bit of a difference now under Tudor. I think they are going to get a bit more license, and that's going to be perfect for someone like Conor, who does like to get forward and get in the box. And I think he's going to be key physically in these last 12 games, because I think he's one of the ones where he's physically, one of his key strengths is that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been quite disappointed with what I've seen from Conor Gallagher so far in a Spurs shirt. I think the second half against Man City was obviously stood out from the rest. But apart from that, I don't think he's been too impressive. But that second half was a very good display, and maybe a sign of the player that we've actually bought here. Like I mentioned before, I think the midfielders have been hamstrung by the tactics that were on show from Thomas Frank. And I think the physical edge that Conor Gallagher brings to this team, I think Tudor's going to absolutely love that. And I want to see him making those kind of late runs in the box, receiving the ball kind of on the edge and having a go and having a dig, because that's where I think Conor Gallagher's at his best, when he's making those late runs into the box, when he's picking up the ball there and just taking those snapshots, because he's very good at that.
Yeah, and we need him to be leading that kind of aggressive side of our game. He needs to be at the forefront of that, because I really believe he needs to set the tone for it, because he's the kind of player who, when we're kind of on top of a team physically and we want to kind of suffocate them, like on Sunday, he needs to be the forefront of us leading that aggressive style of our game, because I think he's the one who's best at it. So if he's on his game, getting stuck into tackles, I think the whole team will follow suit with that.
Yeah, absolutely. We used to see it back in the day when, certain players used to put that crunching tackle in from minute one. That's probably going to have to be Gallagher.
Okay, next up, we're going to look at Xavi, who I think he's going to be one who's really going to thrive. I know he has been improving in recent weeks under Thomas Frank as well, so there's definitely evidence of him getting better and better this season. But I do think for sure he's looked a lot better in the back when we've played a 3-4-2-1 under Frank. I think he's got players closer towards him. And I think he gives himself more options. It gives himself a bit more license to float around different kind of areas on the pitch. I also think it gets him further.
Was he free floating? Was he
free floating? I think it gets him further up the pitch as well, because he's got a bit more cover behind him, so it gives him a bit more license to stay a bit further up the pitch. And if we saw under Tudor, I think Kenan Yildiz was one of the big benefactors of how Igor liked to play at Juve, and he was one who was kind of the creative hub. And I feel like Xavi is going to be like that for us, and I expect his output to increase now that Tudor's here, because I do think he'll have more options. We're going to be more on the front foot. That'll give him more opportunities to show what he's capable of, in my opinion. And I think he's going to be one who's definitely going to benefit from this appointment.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like the two systems that we've spoken about, the 3-5-2 and the 3-4-3, I think he can thrive in both of them under Igor Tudor. And what you were saying about when he was in the 10 as opposed to when he was like kind of the left-sided 10, he was 100% way too isolated, but I don't think that would be the case in an Igor Tudor 3-5-2, because I think you're going to have two strikers there, which will naturally give you more options anyway, and then you're going to have two box-to-box players behind him as well, which should naturally give him more players around him. So I think he can definitely thrive in that system, and the 3-4-3 we've seen already, like you said, that he can thrive in that system, and that's probably his best position.
Yeah, and I would like to. It'll be interesting to see if we do play a 3-5-2, if you get Porro. Or, I don't know who's going to play left wing back, maybe Spence. If you get them high up, so you can have a runner to his left, he'll have potentially two runners beyond him in Moani and Solanke, potentially a runner in Porro to his right, and he'll have options behind him with Gallagher and maybe Sarr supporting him. I think and that dynamic gives him a lot more options. When he's in the 4-2-3-1, he's only really got Solanke ahead of him. You had kind of the two wingers very pinned out wide. They weren't even coming to support him either.
The midfielders way too deep.
And exactly, they were just disciplined there on the halfway line, and it didn't quite work. And he was always no player within 30 yards of him, it felt like, every time. Yeah. So I feel like this formation will definitely help him a lot
Absolutely, more. 100%. I think he's going to thrive, but I think he would have been on this list, whoever the manager coming in was, to be honest. I really believe that. Because he's that of quality, and we're seeing that. He's growing and growing in influence. He seems to be, when we're playing well anyway, playing with a smile on his face, particularly in those Champions League games, second half against Man City. And when he's playing with a smile on his face, he's a joy to behold, to watch. He really is. So we need to get him playing with a smile on his face more often. Hopefully that happens under Igor. But the last player that we're going to talk about is maybe a bit of a surprise to you guys, but Radu Dragusin. We're most likely going to play with a three at the back, and with Danso being injured for the foreseeable, we think Radu Dragusin is going to get a lot of minutes. And I think with the way Igor likes to play, I think Radu Dragusin could actually thrive in a system. I know he likes to play a bit of a higher line than what Frank likes to do, but still he likes his defenders to be super aggressive and to be defenders first. And I think Radu Dragusin definitely fits that mould. Yeah,
and I think Tudor's obviously very kind of used to how teams play in the Serie A, and I know it's different in the Premier League, but Dragusin, his best football came when he was in a back three for Genoa, which we did sign him, and I think it did help him on the ball because he had more options to kind of pass it to players. And I think I think what he should be doing potentially is having Dragusin in the middle with one of Van der Ven or Romero on either side of him, because I think that gives him more options to play it. And obviously once Romero and Van der Ven get the ball, they can progress the ball from kind of wider areas. I think what we've done before is given it to Romero on the right and Dragusin or Danso in the middle. And I think, or even Dragusin's been on left-sided centre-back as well, which was a horrible, horrible decision from Thomas Frank. I think doing that, it almost limits his options because the wing back is going to be high, and that pass makes it more difficult. So it kind of leaves his only option to the left of him being that central centre back, because I don't think he likes to pass it through to midfield. Whereas if he's in the centre and he's got Van der Ven and Romero either side of him, it gives him more options, I feel like, closer towards him, so he doesn't have to pull off harder passes. I think that could be something for him to be looking at. And in the back three, you can rely on him to be the one in the middle kind of using his aerial ability, box defending as well.
Do you not think the best option for him is to play him at right of the centre-back? Because I'm thinking of the options that we have available. Let's say Cuti Romero, for example. I know he's not available, but let's say he was. Like, you would want him in the middle so he can step into the midfield as well, with the other two kind of forming that back two because of his ball-playing ability as well, stepping into midfield like that as well, as if we put Paulinho in the centre of a back three with Dragusin on the right. We know Paulinho is comfortable in midfield as well to step in and step up like that.
I
you
just
don't
think
really want Dragusin to do that.
In build-up, I don't think you want him on the wide areas because that's where he's less comfortable. And I feel like when he's in the middle, yes, you're not getting that direct penetration down through the middle, but you're giving him more options. I feel like if you put him on the wide areas, like we've seen, he just struggles to pick players out because his options are minimised. You have to be a much better passer, I feel like, actually, when you're playing on the right. Now, I get your point, and I think you're absolutely right. If Romero's in the middle, you probably maximise his passing ability more. But then what you'll do, but the downside to that is your Dragusin's going to suffer and build up, and you might give the ball away more if the opposition target Dragusin in the press. What they'll do is they'll manipulate the pitch to force you to Dragusin and then trigger the press, right? Whereas if he's in the centre, I feel like he has more options to quickly give the ball to who are closer towards him, and that would mean it's going to be harder for the opposition to trigger the press because once he gives it off to Van der Ven or Romero, they're much better on the ball. Whereas if Romero is forced to give it to Dragusin on the right, all of a sudden that's easier to win the ball back off us. That's what I would argue. Although, one thing I'd say to caveat that is I've been, again, looking a bit more at Tudor's time at like Marseille and Juventus, and when the centre-back does have the ball, the wide centre-backs do seem to split quite wide. So that would potentially mean the centre-back does have to be better on the ball. So if he does continue to play like that at Tottenham, Dragusin can't play that role, that's for sure.
Yeah, look, in my mind, in terms of a back three, I thought the best ball players should always be in the middle.
Not necessarily, I would argue. Not always.
But let us know your thoughts on that in the comment section below. That is our 5 players who we think can really thrive under Igor Tudor. Let us know your 5 players in the comment section below. If you have any comments on our points, let us know as well. But we're going to finish off reacting to some more of your comments because, once again, you've been absolutely brilliant. So let's get into them.
All right, so comments. First up is from Coys2301. They say, Poch is back in the summer then. It's like we're getting back after a divorce. Hope it works out with the kids, for us kids.
Yeah, you never know. Sometimes you can get divorced, and once you get back together, it could be better than ever.
Exactly.
It could be better than ever.
You've both learned, you've both grown.
Exactly.
And sometimes you're now more ready for a relationship than you were before.
Exactly, more mature.
Exactly, more mature. Well, I think one party's definitely more mature in this scenario. I don't know about, we're still gambling addict, alcoholic. We've still got all the same problems, but we're hoping our ex can come and make us better person.
Exactly.
The only person who can make us a better person is our ex.
Exactly. You know what I mean? He's going to come in and ground us, put us on the right path, and set us off on our way.
Chuck us in a cold shower, get us right, get us back into rehab.
100%.
and stick by us through thick and thin.
Exactly.
Even though we chucked them away last time, which was uncalled for, wrong decision. We broke up with them, which for bad reasons. I think we've lost our way to such an extent.
Exactly. We broke up with them because we found someone in the club, and we thought, you know, the glitz and the glamour, they'll take us to the top. Obviously, it was a very bad decision, and we should have stuck with the tried and tested.
It was kind of like Miss Universe from 2003.
Yeah.
And it was a bad decision.
Absolutely.
Robert Treed Z9V says, you need to read between the lines here. This is a very shrewd appointment, talking about Igor Tudor. He plays the exact same 3-4-2-1 high press wing back system that Poch now favours. It's a virtual carbon copy in both formation and tactics. I guarantee you Poch suggested him. He's effectively got someone else to do 3 months of pre-season donkey work for him, getting everyone used to their roles and demands of the system he will bring with him. This is vital. Can you imagine a new manager coming in now and teaching them his system only for Poch to turn up in July and have like a month to teach him this. It's genius when you think about it. So is Tudor basically a pre-season for Poch? Poch apparently called up the Spurs hierarchy and said, get Tudor in. I'll give him the notes for pre-season, and then I'll be ready to go in July.
You know what? I've been suggesting this, but not with Tudor, with like Jan Vertonghen and Ryan Mason and stuff like that. But no, I think this is all very fanciful thinking, if you ask me. I mean,
guarantees it, though.
Spurs are playing all this 4D chess, are they? And looking so far ahead. Poch is coming in. Let's see who he wants as the It's all rubbish. I mean, the only thing that happened here was that Paratici wanted him for the club about 4 months ago. We shut his opinion down. We says, no, we're going to trust in Lang and Vinay. We're going to stick with our man, Thomas Frank. Paratici goes, you know what, sod this, I'm off. They don't value my opinion. I don't see the way this club is moving forward, so I'm going to go to Fiorentina, a team battling for relegation in Serie A. And push comes to shove. The ownership, the Lewis guys, they stamp on Vinay and Lange's toes. They sack Frank themselves, and they're like, well, didn't Paratici say we should get Igor Tudor a few months ago? Let's go for him.
Who was the guy Paratici said we could get?
Yeah, exactly.
It's on the tip of my tongue. Henry the Tudor. That was it.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's got nothing to do with Poch. Albeit, what do you think of the suggestion he plays in a similar way to Poch does? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Has Poch been favouring the 3-4-2-1? Is that how he plays now?
I'm not sure how he's playing.
PSG potentially he did.
I think Poch changes his system quite
Sammy,
a bit.
did he play that at Chelsea 3 at the back? I don't think so. Poch. No, he wasn't playing 3 at the back.
His last USA tactics was 3-4-3.
Yeah, 3-4-2, same thing. Okay, so maybe he is playing it now at USA.
And then before, so he's changed it a bit. The one before that was 3-5-2.
Right, so this is
against Australia it was 3-4-3, and at Spurs he played 3 at the back.
He did. See, the pretty much for one seat. Well, actually, no, a couple years I would say. He would. It would be. I wouldn't.
Look,
I don't think that was our first choice formation.
It looks as though he's played different systems in every game. Like against Japan, he played a 4-2-3-1. So Poch is very adaptable in terms of his formation.
So this isn't a Poch pre-season we're going to see for the next 12 games.
No chance.
No chance.
Against Korea, it was 4-2-3-1 as well.
Okay, so we don't quite think it's a Poch pre-season. I don't know if it's a Poch recommendation, but maybe you're right. Maybe when Poch gets pointed, he'll say, "Yep, I recommended Tudor. He did. I gave him all the notes, and now we're ready to go." Mark says, "Ben, well, he's kind of started this." Comment as if you're part of the managers on the list, but I don't think so. He says,
Ben, Yol, Redknapp, AVB, and Sherwood.
You had us in the top 6, mate. He said all these managers had us in the top 6, but I think he's talking to you. He says Yol, Redknapp, AVB, and Sherwood all had us in the top 6. So Poch didn't take over a mid-table team. He took over a team on a rapid upward curve.
That's true. Obviously, Yol started that off, and then we kind of like went on an upward trajectory with a few dips in there. That's definitely true. But Spurs, no matter, I know we finished 6th in that last season with Sherwood and stuff, but still, it was still seen as a highly negative season with the way it was going. And we took some heavy defeats in that season as well. And that 4-0 one obviously cost AVB his job and everything like that.
Sherwood saying, not going to forget about this one.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was a lot of negativity in that season. And even me, I was just like, I don't even want to go and watch this game. I had to be dragged by my grandpa out the door to White Hart Lane.
Imagine back then, the 6th place wasn't enough to even care.
Mad, isn't it?
Now look at us.
But it didn't look like we were going to finish 6th at one point. It looked like we were going to finish quite a bit lower down in the table, and then we kind of salvaged it towards the end. But I think you got to take into account everything that's gone on as well. So last season we won the Europa League, so that gets played into it. Last season we finished 17th, but heavy injuries in the last 2 seasons probably goes to why we finished so low last year and why we're so low in the table this year as well. So, look, I think in terms of league position, yes, we were much higher up in those days, but I still think we're in a very similar kind of vein in terms of where Poch can potentially pick us up now to where he picked us up then.
Yeah, I disagree in terms of the team on a rapidly upward curve, because before those 6th place finishes, we had finished I think it was what, fourth, and fifth in the 4 seasons before that.
No, yeah, but I think what he's saying is that when Yol took us over, Spurs were on an upward trajectory.
Yeah, but not when Poch did.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it was when Poch picked us up. We weren't on a decline or an incline. We kind of stagnated.
The reality
in terms
is,
of league
if
position.
we didn't get that appointment right, we could have easily been dropped down to the mid-table.
Yeah.
If we got that appointment wrong, and actually, for the first few weeks until Poch sorted everything out, we were dropping down, and that was obviously the worry. There was a big disinterest in the team. There was a lot of players who were older, maybe, as I've said, like mercenaries weren't really there for the money.
Jan Vertonghen wanted to leave.
Jan Vertonghen wasn't happy. He wanted out. So we dragged ourselves to 6th place. But I think we could all say off the back of that, we weren't a great team at that point. We had a lot of talent, but we weren't a fantastic team, and it needed it needed a big shake-up. It needed a big shake-up at that time. And
we were still in the shadows of that Gareth Bale sale and bringing in the Fantastic Seven and stuff like that.
Yeah, which obviously didn't work out whatsoever. That was obviously a major failing of the team, and we were directionless at the time. So I understand we kind of dragged ourselves to 6th, but we were not rapidly on an upward curve at the point he took over. Definitely not. But also, needless to say, we weren't a bottom half team either, to be fair. Stefan Broa says, Sim Romero is part of the environment and adding to the toxicity. This is a player who has one good game in 5, and the fan base turn a blind eye to any mistake he makes because he's a World Cup winner. He couldn't lace Ledley King's boots. Look, I do think Ledley King was absolutely one of a kind, and I would say probably a better defender than Romero. If injuries aside, is Romero adding to the toxicity? I think he's adding fuel to the fire, but the fire wasn't started by him, I would say. Is he helping the toxicity with his comments? Probably not. I agree with that. I don't think he's helping it, but I also think he's not saying anything that all us fans are not thinking. So the toxicity in the fire is bright, and it's there, and it's big. And he's basically just calling out for what it is, which is unacceptable. And from the club's point of view, the way we're running the football club is in no way short of disgraceful. And I think all fans can agree with that. Now, does it help the situation? It allows fans to understand that the players see the situation for what it is, and that they're not just accepting, or they're not happy about the situation either. But, of course, when you're captain of a football club, you want him to concentrate on the football, and you want him to start concentrating and getting results on the pitch. And does him speaking out help those situations, or does it help with the feeling of disillusionment within the dressing room? Maybe not, but the reality is, whether he speaks out or not, that disillusionment is probably there.
Regardless of speaking out, that's not the problem I had, and I don't think that's what he's alluding to here. I think it was the conversation that we were having when we were talking about him coming late to training the day after the North London derby, and he's the captain, he should be setting the standards of it, and if he's coming late, the rest of the players have an excuse, because if the captain's doing it, then it doesn't matter if I do it, and that's the kind of atmosphere that I think that contributes to the negative atmosphere at Tottenham Hotspur. And as well, when he's saying he only plays well 1 in 5 games, I don't agree that it's that much, but what you got to say as well is that Romero is way too often culpable for a goal that we concede. It's happened quite a lot this season. It's happened throughout the Spurs career, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. I think when it comes to him not holding himself to a higher standard, with the stories of him being late, again, it could have been a one-off incident. We don't know. But if we got to take up the story, which he was late the day after a North London derby. And
a heavy defeat as well.
Was more. I think more importantly, it was just after Frank had talking about we need to up the standards and all this kind of stuff, and then he's turning up late. Now, was there a good reason for it or not? I don't know, but that's just the factor amount of what happened. And so, if that was a constant theme throughout Frank's tenure of Romero undermining Frank's leadership, then 100% he's a contributing factor to the environment of which there was a lack of professionalism, and the players kind of not taking stuff seriously enough and the standards dropping way too low. 100%. Again, I would argue that I don't think Romero causes bad environments. I don't think he is that kind of person, in my opinion. Now, he might have had bad moments recently this season, and he might have been adding to what was a bad environment in the dressing room. I don't necessarily think that's not possible. I think that definitely is possible. But my point is, do I think there can be an environment at Tottenham with Romero leading the dressing room where there's a culture of high standards and a winning environment, and he could be central to it? I do. Now, what is causing the reason why it isn't that? Is it him, or is it everything, or is his drop in standards a consequence of stuff surrounding Tottenham about how we're run and the manager we have and all this kind of stuff? I think that's the root cause of why Romero's might have been maybe not holding himself to the highest standards. Is it acceptable? No. Does it mean we should sell him? And does it mean that the right course of action is we need a different leader and a different captain and a different centre-back? Look, you could definitely land on that argument. I argue that I think the root cause, we're not going to, whoever comes in next, right, is probably, if we go in the same direction, it's not going to help anything until that's fixed, until we're run better, until we have a better manager who's got a better game plan than just being reactive to the opposition, whatever, and has a game plan that the players believe in. All those things are much more important than Romero. Now, Romero doing those kind of things, that has to definitely be looked at, and the new guy, whoever comes in, has to assess whether Romero really is a problem or not. I don't believe he is, but if he is, then get rid, 100%. But I think a new guy will have to determine that in terms of the situation he comes into. Now, a lot of people will maybe comment saying he is a problem because he contributes to it, and if he's part of that problem, you need to get rid of him. And that's fair enough. But I think there is evidence, especially when you look at him, how he is with Argentina, in the right environment, he can be one of the leaders. And that's what I think.
Yeah, all of that is fair to say, but the reality is, we can talk about all the influences in the surroundings, and the surroundings not good enough. What I want to see is, from my captain, no matter what the surroundings are, you take ownership of the situation, you lead in the situation, and you hold yourself to a lot higher standards that the like of Sonny did, like the likes of Kane did, like the likes of, not Kane, King is what I mean, and the Michael Dawsons of this world, and the proper leaders of this football club over the last 10, 15 years. No matter the situation in the club, they rise above it and they try and lead the club through the dark times instead of actually contributing to the dark times. And I think as much as I value and rate Romero so highly as a football player, I think instead of rising above it and kind of dragging the club through it and leading the club through it, he contributes to it way too much.
Yeah, fair. Luca says most of the Spurs YouTubers got it wrong on Frank, not listing them, but we all know who they are. But no apologies needed. However, forgive many of us who watch the Spurs channels for no longer being able to take their views on who should be Spurs manager with any great seriousness. Their understanding on what is needed to be Spurs manager appears to be on the same level as the most clueless numpties in the Spurs boardroom.
No, that's the thing. Football is a game of opinions. Sometimes you get things right, sometimes you get things wrong. That's just the way it goes, I don't think there's not one football fan out there that has been right on every single situation. There's just never been a case.
Not possible.
Exactly. So this is just the way it goes.
Yeah, you get some right, some wrong. That's it. And you have to live with it, I guess. And
there's nothing wrong with being wrong. You know what I mean? It's just an opinion at the end of the day.
I think when it comes to Frank, I think he's underperformed more than anyone could have expected. Even his biggest critic, I don't think could have expected him to have been this bad. I think, for me, I'm actually been shocked by his underperformance here at Tottenham. In terms of, I really thought he had much more to his game than what we've seen. I think his game plan is so basic. I'm starting to really believe that he is actually a lot more average than we think. Do
you not think he can do well at a kind of similar club to Brentford, like a Palace or one of these kind of teams?
I'm starting to question whether he's going to do well at those clubs, to be honest. I'm starting to question that. I don't think he'll get them relegated, but whether
I just think the job's just too big for him here.
I think that's definitely part of it. I think when I compare like how we play to even like I don't know if he's on the same level as Glasner when I watch us, like compared to what I see at Palace. I don't know if he's on the same level as Iraola, given their game plan and what his one has been. Like, I don't look, maybe it is just a bad fit with Tottenham. Maybe that was just a problem. And I think that was definitely part of it. But I'm starting to think he wasn't as good as what we thought. I think that was also part of the problem.
Thing is, if you get him playing in like a classic counter-attacking team like a Crystal Palace, I mean, we saw what he did with Brentford, and yes, I know we're going to hark back to the club kind of lets managers like that thrive in a situation, but even tactically, look what he did with Damsgaard, look what he did with the players on the transition. It was all very good stuff. You know what I mean? Tactically at Brentford. So that makes me believe that he can thrive in a place like Crystal Palace. I just think Spurs fans expect a lot more and should expect a lot more. And obviously he didn't. He just wasn't able to implement anything at Tottenham.
You think he could do as good a job as Glasner has done at Palace?
No, because Glasner did like the best that Palace have ever seen, literally. So I don't think Frank's on a level to see the best Palace has ever seen, but I still think he can do a very good job there. I think he can get them in the top half of the table, something like that. I just don't think he'll win them an FA Cup.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I honestly, I'm starting to doubt a lot of what I thought about Thomas Frank, about how crucial he actually was to everything that was going on.
Look at Nuno, for example, like how poor he was here, and he's still gone on to make a good name for himself. Look at the job he did at Nottingham Forest. Fantastic, and he's turned it around at West Ham now. They've seemed to have turned a corner. So I mean, after Nuno left Spurs, we were all saying this guy's a terrible manager, blah 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 blah. But he's proven himself a good manager, and I think Frank's going to do the same.
Let's go. Mark says, you guys are hilarious. On the one hand, you say how badly run we are at board level. Then on the other hand, you say how well Poch will do when he comes back, conveniently forgetting how badly ENIC are running the club.
That's true. We are a badly run club, but we need someone like a Pochettino that can fight against those measures. We've seen him fight against it before and flourish in the situation. That's what you need, a player a manager that can actually overperform from a situation. And Poch has proved to do that before. He's proved that he profiles players in a perfect way. He's proved that he can kind of nurture and develop young talent as well that we have at this football club. So just because you're a badly run football club, it doesn't mean managers can't do well.
Yeah.
It means most managers can't do well, but not all.
I think when it comes to Poch as well, he already comes with credit in the bank.
Yeah.
I think he comes with as a manager who wants to be here, who feels like he comes here with a mission of not just doing well for himself, but doing something, finishing a job which he started many, many years ago. And not many managers come with that kind of history.
The thing, right? It's not so much finishing a job that he started years ago. He's actually starting from scratch now.
Yeah, true. But in terms of winning a trophy for this club, which he never quite got to do when he was last here, I think that will mean a lot more to him and to us than a different manager coming in. And I think there's still evidence to suggest he's a very good manager, and he can work. I understand that ENIC is still here, but he's going to have more money at his disposal. There's reasons to think he's not going to be as constrained as he was, as much as there's still problems here for sure. And we do need to get rid of Vinay and Lange. But hopefully, Poch is someone we can trust, whereas these other guys is just more of a, I don't know, I'm not saying more of a risk, but yeah, there are still questions about the ownership, 100%, but I think there's reasons to think Poch can maybe get success despite them.
Yeah, I think he can. And like you mentioned before, like when he was last here, he literally had no money to spend, literally nothing. He spent a couple of money in his first 2 seasons, but then they turned the tap off on him because of the stadium build and everything like that. So he had 2 transfer windows where he got absolutely zilch, like literally nothing. And now we spend money. We actually do spend money. So it's all about putting a good recruitment structure behind him. And if we can bin off Lange and Vinay and bring in some guys that can actually work with Poch, I think we can start to see light at the end of the tunnel.
Ollie says...
Let me caveat that, though, because if we actually do keep Lange and Vinay, then every manager is going to be set up to fail.
Yeah, hiding to nothing. Ollie says, my favourite part, so this is about the Allison article, she says, my favourite part was when she said that the players had it easy under Postecoglou. Wasn't he the manager that was criticised for working the players too hard and causing injuries?
That's true.
Good point, I think. Yeah, that whole article was bizarre. It was really, really strange. A lot of people in the comments have been saying, clearly rage bait, and we all fell for it. I don't know if it was.
It was.
I don't know if it was. I think she was being serious.
100% rage bait.
I think she's being serious. I think that's what she actually thinks.
Nah, I don't agree.
Matthew Walker says, here's the thing with Pochettino. People say he struggled at PSG and Chelsea. I say that is debatable, but sure. However, he was stepping up into those clubs who had been very successful, and he was in a position where he had to prove himself to the fans to be worthy. Both of those clubs, despite being successful and having top players, had issues at the time, and Poch was never going to be the guy those fans and players immediately trusted to bring them success they felt themselves worthy of. It's different at Spurs. He's already got so much credit in the bank with us, and we already know the mire we are in. Our players are going to struggle if they don't immediately get on side with Poch, because us fans are going to side with him, and he would have to do something pretty crazy for us to turn. All that being said, going back to the clubs to recapture the magic rarely works, and I do worry about him sullying his reputation in N17. He's saying Poch basically comes back to Tottenham with nothing to prove, whereas maybe other clubs he had something to prove.
I disagree that he comes back with nothing to prove, because I do think he has something to prove, just because of the way that his time at Chelsea and PSG are perceived. I don't agree with the way they're perceived, and I kind of agree with this guy saying that he's probably got a bit of a worse rap than the jobs he actually did at two clubs that were in desperate need of change. Like at Chelsea, he was picking up the kind of Graham Potter, who was terrible. He improved on that, ended up finishing sixth, and had a very good second half of the season campaign, and it was getting better, and it was just differences between him and the board why he ended up losing his job. I don't think it was actually on footballing merit. And at PSG, the whole thing needed ripping down and rebuilding, and that's what Luis Enrique did. And obviously they're flourishing from it. So I think there's definitely situations at the clubs why it's perceived in the way it is perceived, but I don't think he did a bad job at either, to be honest. And I think that he's a bit unlucky the way fans perceive his jobs at both those clubs, and it's probably because of the history of both those clubs, and they're saying, oh, he's done this, he's done that, and they don't actually look at the specific situation that he was in at both those clubs. So yeah, I kind of agree to a certain extent.
I think he definitely comes in with nothing to prove to the Tottenham fans, in my opinion, in terms of something to prove to the Premier League or opposition fans, in terms of he can be the manager that can get Tottenham back competing titles and winning trophies. I guess he has to prove that to the Tottenham fans as well, in a sense. But I agree with what he's saying. If things start going badly, I think the pressure starts moving on to the players rather than the manager overall, because we know what Poch is capable of, and we trust that his football can definitely work in the Premier League, because we've seen it before firsthand. So I think definitely, a bit like when things were going badly in his first stint, especially later on, like let's say when in that season we got to the Champions League final when we were losing games, and I think a lot of the time the pressure was more on the players for me, in terms of everyone was saying we need to improve the squad, we need better players, like he's been hung out to dry and all that kind of stuff, because we know we give him better players what he can do, and the squad needed a refresh. So I think definitely he comes in with less to prove than his other jobs, whereas at Chelsea he needs to get the fans on side and stuff like that. That was definitely a big thing. At PSG, he needed to prove he could be the guy to bring a Champions League title to them, because other managers weren't able to do it. He had something to prove, whereas at Tottenham, I think he definitely comes in with less to prove here than in those other jobs. I agree with that. But I definitely still think there are question marks about reappointing him, as much as I think most people are on board with it. There are little question marks about it.
Tango bin El Shaid in the comments says he was sacked almost immediately at both Chelsea and PSG, Ben. And yeah, look, his jobs there weren't long, but like I said, there were circumstances of why that happened. At Chelsea, like Maresca's just been sacked for being in the top 4 race. You know what I mean? Like that club sack managers willy-nilly, and he was onto a good thing, Pochettino, second half of the season, like I mentioned, and it was differences between him and the board why that ended. I don't think it was on footballing merit. Who was the last manager before Pochettino to not win a league title with PSG?
Emery, I think.
Exactly. So it was Unai Emery, right? When people look at Unai Emery and him as a manager, people look at him as like being in the top 3 managers in the Premier League right now. That's what I hear. Nobody ever talks about him not winning the league with PSG, but everyone talks about it with Pochettino, even though Pochettino still won the league with PSG. So I don't get those two kind of things. Like, why is Emery never tarnished with that brush?
I think he should be, to be honest. But yeah, fair enough. But you wouldn't. But you said you wouldn't want Emery at Tottenham.
No, but I don't think he's a good fit for Tottenham. But I think Pochettino is a good fit for Tottenham. I'm not saying. I'm not basing it on Emery saying, "Oh, I'd want Emery at the club," but I'm saying the perception on both the managers. When people look at Emery and look at the kind of jobs that he's done, people don't look at him in his negative light. People look at him as one of the best managers in the Premier League. He failed at Arsenal, and his failings at Arsenal were a lot worse than Poch's at Chelsea. And also, he didn't win the league at PSG, and Poch didn't win the league at PSG in his first season. So those things can be compared.
Fair enough. The only thing I would say about Poch is, as I've said, when he left Tottenham, right, we all thought this guy is destined for big jobs, trophy-laden jobs. He's going to be what, we all thought this guy is definitely one of the best, one of the elite managers in Europe. That's how Tottenham fans felt about him. Now, the jobs he's done since leaving us hasn't quite lived up to that. That's the problem. But doesn't mean that coming back to Tottenham, potentially he can rebuild that reputation a bit of where we once thought he was.
Yeah, I think he's just picked the wrong job since leaving Tottenham. I just think it's bad decision-making from him.
Fair. Fan Ange was Spurs says Pochettino's recent comments says everything. He still understands Tottenham's identity and expectations. He spoke about how Europa League success is not enough and how Spurs must aim to compete for the Premier League and Champions League again. That is exactly the mentality this club has been missing. If Tudor stabilises this season, the logical step is clear. Bring Poch back in the summer to rebuild properly. He knows the club, the supporters trust him, and he has already proven he can take Spurs to the highest level. Some relationships in football simply make sense, and this is one of them.
Completely agree. I think Pochettino is Spurs. I think Spurs need to be Pochettino. I think the marriage needs to happen again. We need to get remarried, people. We need to get remarried. Forget the divorce. Let's get back together and let's take this club forward. I think it's the logical step.
Even though we've been saying Poch hasn't done the best since leaving Tottenham, it's fair to say it's clear to see who won the divorce, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Because we have been so bad since Poch has left. Even it's made Poch's average jobs look great compared to where we've been since Poch has gone.
Absolutely. Albeit we have won a European trophy.
We have won a European trophy, to be fair, but he's won one league title. Yeah, I guess.
And also, like, when we talk about Poch's Spurs, obviously we weren't winners. We never won anything. We never got over the line. Do you think that with this club getting over the line last season, winning the Europa League, could give them a nice little head start with a lot of the players have already tasted success at this football club?
I think it should, in theory, given that winning feeling. Unfortunately, this season has gone so horribly bad. Has it gone a long way to just undoing any of that good feeling we got from winning that trophy? But I guess we'll see in the Champions League how much of an effect it's already had, because that's where tournament football kicks in. Romero even said it himself. We have a different mentality in the Champions League. So I'm not saying
we'll win the Champions League.
I'm not saying we're going to win it, but maybe going a bit further than people expect, a semi-final or something. I'm not expecting that, but maybe we'll have to wait and see. Maybe that'll give us a bit more of a positive feeling if we get quite far in it, like a semi. I think quarterfinals still wouldn't give us that feeling, but I think a semi-final.
But regardless of what happened this season, they still got over the line.
Yes,
last season. So he can still play on that.
He can, obviously, depending on how many players stay and not. But yeah, 100%.
There'll still be a big percentage of them left over.
I think he should be able to. I think that's definitely a mental hurdle that the club had to go over. But in terms of mental hurdle he had to suffer, obviously none of the players he had are here, are they?
Ben Davies.
Apart from Ben Davies. So I think he'll be gone by the time he comes in. So it shouldn't really be anything that's related to his job. Thomas Hobbs says, Kabul, Chirichez, Fazio at the back, Bentaleb and Mason in midfield, Chadley and Townsend on the wings with Soldado up front. He's not wrong.
I mean, I don't think we ever had a lineup like that.
Might have done it.
Maybe in the Europa League or something.
So he's talking about, was Poch right when he says that we have more quality now than when Poch took over Tottenham back in 2014?
Look, we went through it yesterday, didn't we? Like kind of man for man in terms of Poch's first starting 11 to our classic starting 11 this year. And in my opinion, there's more quality now. Obviously, it's hard to really judge it because we know how the career paths went. We know what Kane turned into. We know what Son turned into. We know what these players turned into.
Also, you could definitely argue the competition is just like the Premier League now is a much tougher place than it was back in 2014.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the middle teams and back in 2014, you had the middle teams with like aging strikers up front and like the league catamoles in midfield, and they were good enough to get you mid-table back then. Nowadays, those players would be battling relegation, and the middle teams have the likes of Carlos Baleba in midfield or whatever, Alex Scott, or much better players who are England internationals there. So these are the middle teams now. It wasn't like that back then.
Yeah, it's true. So he's got definitely a tough, and also like when we were fighting there, you had big teams on kind of downward periods. Arsenal weren't the team then as they are now. Man City, Liverpool, all of them. The teams that we were fighting for in title race were Leicester and Chelsea.
Yeah, exactly. It's true. Exactly. Prime Pep hadn't even entered the Premier League at that point. And
Prime Klopp was just getting started.
Exactly. So it was just like Pep. Ultimately, a lot changed once Pep came in.
Yeah.
Like in terms of the standards, like it became a league where you could win it with like 85 points to like you needed 90 plus most seasons to win it. Like the standards just raised and everything raised, and the way he played football just changed the Premier League as well. And unfortunately, Poch wasn't able to compete with that. Well, a lot of it was probably to do with as well that we didn't give him the tools to do it. But ultimately, I do think Pep's football as well was just a step above Poch's.
Yeah, very true. And I think both of the managers though learned how to evolve season on season. Like people talk about maybe Poch and the way he played and stuff, but he was actually able to evolve tactics as the season went on, didn't he?
Yeah, he went to a back three. I also felt like as it showed as well with the data, the seasons went on, we weren't like as crazy pressing.
It's because the team was getting older as well.
It was getting older, but I also felt like he adjusted it more as the season went on, as the seasons went on, his years went on, to using it more as a tool rather than this is the way we play 100% of the time. It was more like we can use this when we need to. And I think it suited us a bit better as the seasons went on.
Yeah. All right, so those are your comments. Thank you very much, as always. But that is it from us today. We'll see you all very, very soon, people. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.